interesting because when we are in life and we see on social media or we just see in general what makes people successful, it's always interesting to me the people that always have the same things in common. Like today, as an example, and in case you missed it, there's a Netflix documentary that is out. It's actually been out for a couple of years now. And in that documentary, the Mannings, who now own Omaha Broadcasting, have come out with these documentaries with Netflix covering and watching and going over with multiple quarterbacks in the NFL. And this past season, they did a documentary of former LSU quarterback and Bengals. And Bengals quarterback. There we go. And Bengals quarter. Can y'all hear me? I think y'all can hear me. I'm pretty confident y'all can hear me. Thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me. It looks like our microphone got unplugged. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Regardless, they did a documentary with Joe Burrow. And as the Bengals, the Cincinnati Bengals, beat the Tennessee Titans 37-27, Joe Burrow was not satisfied. The Cincinnati Bengals jumped off sides 8 times in the game, and Joe Burrow came off the sidelines in this documentary, and you see him, he's mic'd up, etc., and he doesn't accept anything but perfection. You know, what's interesting and what makes quarterbacks, the elite quarterbacks, the Tom Brady's of the world, the Peyton Manning's of the world, the Patrick Mahomeses of the world, the Joe Burrows of the world, the Jaden Danielses of the world, and what we might likely see this season with Garrett Nussmeier. Perfection is all that matters. Preparation is all that matters. And people always ask, what makes guys like Joe Burrow elite? Because perfection is not enough for them. It's a very fine line of being psychopathic in reference to what your traits are and what your goals are in life. You know, as an example, I think of some failures that I had in my life and the real effort that I actually put towards them and how high of the level of effort I actually put in them was. Then the successes. Guys, it's all work. We have been very blessed since Les Miles has been fired, since Ed Orgeron has been fired, really. We have been very blessed to have 3 very talented and outstanding quarterbacks that have been on your team. Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, and now Garrett Nussmeier gets his second year and gets his chance to make that legacy very well known. And I very much hope and think that he can do that. But if you've missed the clip, if you've missed some of the things that makes some of these guys special, maybe we can apply it to our lives about work, perfection, and what we need to do to strive for those goals. Guys, it's always work. It's always striving to be the best. And I think about my young son and daughter, for that matter, but Ben just already playing in sports. I think of my son Benjamin, right? I think of him playing sports at such a young age, and I think Ben might be watching. I hadn't talked to well, regardless, I don't know. And if Ben and baby Joel are watching, hello, my beautiful babies. I love you so much. Daddy loves you so much. But I think about, as an example, the big thing of what do we teach our children? Buddy, it's all about putting in the work and everything will take care of itself. Some guys might be more talented than you. Some guys might not be more talented than you. But if you put every single ounce of your being, every single ounce of your being, there's nothing left to chance. You will have no regrets. But LSU, since Les Miles has been fired, and even Orgeron bringing in Burrow, Jaden Daniels, and Garrett Nussmeier, the simple fact of it is that if you would have told LSU fans a decade ago that you would have had 2 Heisman Trophy winners at quarterback and potentially what could be a third in Garrett Nussmeier, we would have laughed you out of the building. But nevertheless, here we stand. Speaking of Garrett Nussmeier, LSU does announce, as we were anticipating that they would today, LSU announces the 3 guys that they are sending to SEC Media Days. We'll break down why and who and my thoughts on the 3 individuals that LSU is sending to SEC Media Days. LSU will be there less than a week from today, next Monday. So we'll break that down and talk about that as well. What is the narrative that needs the actual narrative? There's a lot that's been made of LSU going into the season. What's the real and true narrative of what we should talk about and going into SEC Media Days, the things that people should be focusing on with LSU, the 3 things that people need to be focusing on going into that. Carter Bryant joins us at 4:35-ish. We didn't get to get Carter on last night. He had his mom's birthday. Glad he was able to celebrate that. I have some family member that is in town, so we had to go a little bit live earlier than 7 here tonight, which is awesome that you allow, and we are allowed to do that. But we will have Carter here at 4:30, 4:35. We'll break down the SEC Media Days. Lamar Brown, everything revolved around LSU. Looking forward to that with our good buddy Carter. But let's start off tonight's show by everybody telling us where they are in the chat. Where are you listening from to tonight? Listen, as we were on the show last night, LSU made a hire, Kelvin Bolden from Ole Miss. And I made a statement that got me in a little bit of trouble from you all, that I didn't think that LSU, there's a hire that LSU should make that I thought would benefit them the most. A lot of you hit us up last night, and literally I just turned my phone off, if I'm being honest, because so many of you were reaching out. LSU has some personnel changes, an off-field recruiting staff that they have to field. Jordan Arsenal has left, Bobby Barham has left, and Preston Tiffany has left. LSU has made one of those initial hires in Kelvin Bolden, who will be the associate GM under Austin Thomas and will be a big part of recruiting. He does come from Ole Miss, was a Southern Miss grad, did work at UCF, and got to talk to some former staff members who was on that staff at Ole Miss and at UCF with Kelvin Bolden. And they have told me, and I will relay this to you, that he's a relentless worker. He's always on the phone. He's always recruiting, and that's always a massive positive. In reference to these other 2 hires, just to make clear of what we talked about last night when this started coming out, LSU will make 2 more hires. I do think that there's a very familiar face that LSU fans need to be accustomed to, that LSU will be hiring. Let's let LSU make that announcement, or whoever make that announcement. I do think LSU fans will like it, but I do think that everybody's going to know clearly who this guy is because of this past time here at LSU. The third thing is this. I am going to let these hires play out for what they are. For some of this, I think I am going to, and the reason I've been, quote unquote, as 3 people of you called me last night, quote unquote, sketchy. I'm not trying to be sketchy in the hires that LSU is going after. A pair of them, and we even kind of brought up in the forum, which apparently our forum had a glitch. We fixed that. It's good to go. AYSSnetwork.com. Last week I was asked by somebody that's on our message board, who do you think it was? I said that the Ole Miss connection made a lot of sense for one of the league guys, and here we are with Kelvin Bolden. You need to be on the network or on the forum if you're not there already. We have fixed that. Some of the stuff that we had published over the last couple of weeks had actually not made it to the website. I don't check the website. We do it from a back channel situation, and I should have checked that a little bit better. That's on me. I do think that a couple of these hires, or at least one of these hires, will be very close to home. And I think that LSU is in a position, I will say this, LSU is in a position to make a grand slam hire in the recruiting department. I don't know where they're going to go. They know, and they know where they should go for the director of player personnel. And I'm going to leave it at that. There are multiple people, especially one that has deep Louisiana ties, that is not at LSU, that quite honestly kicks everybody's ass in recruiting, especially at DB. LSU knows him. They know him well. They need to make the hire. That's all I'll say. Regardless of that, let's see who they make. And look, they may go in another direction. Doesn't mean that they're good, bad, or indifferent. I just wanted to clarify that I did not mean the thing with Kevin Bolden in reference to I didn't think it was a good hire. I mixed my words up, and that is my fault. I do think it's a good hire. However, I do think from these off-field roles, especially in recruiting today, LSU could make a grand slam hire that, I'll just say this, on a Louisiana connection that quite honestly has plagued LSU for quite some time. All right, let's get rolling here. We don't have time to waste. Noah Mason is in Plano, Texas, and go Tigers. Good to have you in here with us. Look at here. My babies are watching. This is my mom, by the way, for all of you watching on YouTube or Facebook. My kids say, "We love you, Daddy," from Ben and Jewel. You got to love it. You got to love it. Krim says, "Isn't Nuss a Coach O recruit?" I don't think I said that he wasn't. Did I? I don't think I ever said that he wasn't. I'm just saying, in reference to the Les Miles thing, think of the Les Miles era and you thinking how bad quarterback play was. If you would have told people in 2016, less than 10 years ago, that you would have had 2 Heisman Trophy winners at quarterback and that you could have potentially have a third in a decade, guys, that shit's insane. That shit is insane. I mean, like, legitimately, LSU should be the hub right now for quarterbacks. Like, you should not want to go anywhere if you're a quarterback other than LSU. Claude says the 804 Petersburg, Virginia is in the building. Shane is in Alexandria, Louisiana. Good to have you in here. Ringgold, the 318 great, says Lonnie Young. Good to have you in here as well. Ricky Bertrand says the 337 New Iberia is in the building. Good to have you all in here with us. David says, Lonnie, that's where I'm from originally. How about that? See, when y'all come in here and you say where you're from, you make connections with people that have a lot of the same experiences that you have had. John Bro says the 713 Houston, Texas. Stand up. Good to have you in here with us as well. Chance Babin says, I hope going to media days helps get Chris Hilton out of his shell. He is so shy in front of the camera. Chris has been on camera on this show, and we will talk about that as soon as we get out of the break. I am fired up for Chris. I am proud of Chris. I am very glad that this is happening for Chris and to Chris, and I think it sends a statement, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. All right, let's get moving here. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all of those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Before we get rolling here, every episode is brought to you by our good friends over at ServiceHawk Digital Media. We already did a very brief preview of Clemson versus LSU. We did it from the great studios over there in Hammond, Louisiana, over at ServiceHawk Digital Media. But if you're in business, if you're in sales, if you need the right leads, smart systems with real growth, you need to get a marketing system that works for you today. You know, I heard a tragedy from a business owner last week. I went to lunch with a couple of business owners last week, and they told me, Blake, literally, we tried to get our marketing out there, and the people that we hired before, they did an absolutely horrible job. ServiceHawk Digital Media and ServiceHawk Digital Marketing is one of the best inside the state of Louisiana to give you those right leads, smart systems with real growth. You need to get a marketing system that works for you today. Go over to servicehawk.io. That's servicehawk.io. Fill out the questionnaire. Let them know what you're looking to do so they will be able to assist all of your needs. ServiceHawk Digital Media and ServiceHawk Digital Marketing, where they soar above the competition. Let me get to a quick break. We break down SEC Media Days and what the vibe should be going into SEC Media Days for LSU. Carter Bryant joins us at 4:30. We'll talk about SEC Media Days and the 3 guys that LSU sending. Stay with us.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick.
We're back.
All right. LSU announced today that there will be sending 3 players to SEC Media Days, as you always do. You send 3. But I do think that one of them came as a little bit of a surprise to some, as Chris Hilton Jr., Garrett Nussmeier, and Whit Weeks are going to be attending SEC Media Days for LSU this upcoming Monday. Chris Hilton Jr. jumped off the page for some people, the wide receiver, the senior, jumped off the page for some people because I don't know if a lot of people, with a lot of the things that you did at wide receiver in the offseason, with a lot of the guys that you have returning like Aaron Anderson, some of the guys that have already been in the SEC for quite some time like Barry and Brown, you knew that Garrett Nussmeier, who was there a year ago, more than likely and is the headliner of your team, would be going with Brian Kelly to SEC Media Days on Monday. Defensively, the anchor, the guy that's in the middle of your defense, Whit Weeks, also I'm sure a lot of LSU fans felt as if that Whit would be a massive part of this, and he will be a massive part. The Honky Badger, as he's been named by some, would be a central piece into the leadership of what LSU is doing. I'm going to talk about Chris Hilton first before we get to Garrett and before we get to Whit Weeks. Chris Hilton Jr., guys, has had, and we've talked about this some, we talked about it a lot last week when he was the quote-unquote freak of the week. So LSU, in case you didn't know this, on social media, their strength and conditioning team nominates one player during the summer from the team who is the, quote, freak of the week, the guy who has been making some of the biggest impacts. Like I think Bauer Sharp won it one week. I forget some of the other guys that won it. Chris Hilton won it. I'm pretty sure it was last week. And in the conversation from strength and conditioning coach Jake Flint was that this guy turns it on every single time that we are together. There's not a time that I'm ever telling Chris Hilton what to do. There's never a time I'm telling Chris Hilton to give max effort. There's never a time where Chris Hilton isn't trying to be his best. Now, in the history of Chris Hilton, we all know the story. It's pretty much plagued LSU some of these years. But Chris has always been in situations like last year that he has been hurt throughout the season. And that has plagued him and his career for a guy that is very talented. Guys, I will tell you, and this is ask anybody that is around that building, from an offensive standpoint. Now, you could say, well, Blake, you're biased. You love Chris Hilton. Yes, I do. There has not been at all anybody on that offensive side of the football that has put in more work, determination to get where they are. And I'm very glad that Brian Kelly selected and listened to his staff and bringing Chris Hilton. Guys, I don't know if you follow Chris Hilton on Instagram. I don't know if you follow him and some of the coaching staff on Instagram. Guys, remember when Jane Daniels was here in 2023 and those 5 a.m. workouts were a big deal? Chris Hilton attended all of those workouts. Well, he didn't stop just because Jane Daniels and other guys had left. He was still there and is still doing it. From conversations that I've had with at least 3 sources and people around the staff, all 3 of them who don't really have a fight in the hunt in this, in reference to, hey, who's been the best, who's showed the best, who's put in the most effort this offseason, especially during the summer. Guys, Chris Hilton's name has come up, and at least in those 3 conversations that I have. One of them I had last night, and me and my wife and my kids are just sitting around, and I'm on the phone, and we're talking, and like, hey, man, you know who's had a massive offseason? It's been Chris Hilton. Now, I understand your concerns. It's the same concerns that I have. Last year when Chris Hilton got hurt, there was a massive how do I want to say this? There was a massive hole in what you were trying to do offensively because you could not take the top off of defenses. You tried with some other players. You just did not work. Because if Chris Hilton stays healthy and he is in connection with Garrett Nussmeier, I do anticipate that if, and let's not even say if, when that happens, we're going to speak this one into existence. When that happens, the question starts becoming, what can Chris Hilton be? I think that there are a lot of people that think that, look, man, at the end of the year, the slant route that Chris caught against Texas A&M and was explosive for 20 yards, the big vertical stuff that he did. We think about the big plays against Oklahoma and in the bowl game. Now, there were some things that Chris and Garrett had to work out during the season. Like you think of the really bad Florida catch. I'm assuming Chris was trying not to get hurt again, and he had to work himself back into that. When Chris Hilton stays healthy this season, I do anticipate there to be a big season for him. I've seen some media things coming out from other people. I am telling you for a fact, if you talk to anyone in that building, I don't care who the media person is, if you are actually talking to anybody worth a damn in that building, Chris and his name will come up to the tippity top because of what he's done. He's got to stay healthy. When he stays healthy this season, I do think that there's a connection between Garrett Nussmeier and Chris Hilton that Bryant Brown, Nick Anderson, Bauer Sharp, Tradez Green, Aaron Anderson probably was right there with Chris because of all the action that Garrett and Aaron saw a season ago. Guys, I will tell you this, and any media member that was out at practice a season ago during the fall, there was a narrative coming out that Chris Hilton was going off, and guys, he was. Then he got hurt. In the offseason and on the field, when we saw the connection between Garrett and Chris, guys, shit got real fast. Things were going at a massive rate of speed. I pray that Chris, who deserves to be at SEC Media Days, can take that next step. I hope that he can stay healthy. If he does, in the speed that you have with Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton, and Bryant Brown, along with trying to get Nick Anderson back into game shape and getting Nick Anderson back from injury, again, asked this week, still not technically cleared yet. Guys, at wide receiver, you have a massive, I'm talking about an outright massive situation here that you could have a receiver. Remember that we talked about that because that's going to be one of the narratives that we talk about going into SEC Media Days next week. Garrett Nussmeier was the other that LSU has taken. Garrett obviously was at SEC Media Days last year. Why not? He's your starting quarterback. And quite honestly, how can you not bring a guy that is top 2 in the odds for the Heisman Trophy race in Garrett Nussmeier? Because Garrett is a top-line guy in college football this upcoming season. There's been a lot made of Garrett. There's been a lot saying, hey, if he takes the next step, there's a very good chance that at the end of all of this, that he can be in that Heisman Trophy conversation. We all know, and Garrett is going to get asked this at SEC Media Days about the turnovers. Does Garrett progress in year 2? And I think a lot of us anticipate that he will. Garrett's a no-brainer because he's going to be, and on Monday when LSU goes first, Garrett is the headliner going into SEC Media Days. He's in that conversation with Arch Manning. He's in that conversation with Lenore Sellers. He's in that conversation with Anthony Hill. He's in those conversations with a lot of the elite dudes in college football, and he deserves to be. Bringing Garrett Nussmeier was and is and will continue to be a no-brainer. In a minute, we're going to get to Garrett Nussmeier and one of the 3 headlines that everything's going to be pushed this upcoming Monday, and what we're talking on the show next Monday in reference to SEC Media Days. Whit Weeks is the 3rd and final player that LSU is taking to SEC Media Days. Your middle linebacker in his 3rd season in Baton Rouge is making his first trip to Atlanta, in his home state, by the way, to represent the LSU Tigers, and the only one from the defense. Gus, Whit Weeks has got to be the heart and soul of your defense. Whit's injury in the bowl game, which thank God it was not as bad as maybe first anticipated. A guy who missed spring, but guys, if you've seen this offseason, has been the backbone of your team defensively. Because he's got to be the backbone of your defense again this year. A guy that's coming back with over 120 total tackles a season ago. Whit in that front 7 has got to be big for LSU to make a playoff run. I could make the argument that the Whit Weeks development, that the development of not only him, but that linebacking core and the front 7, which we'll talk about again in just a moment too, I could make the argument that it has to be one of the biggest storylines going into LSU for the 2025 season. Guys, it's talking season. We've talked about all these things. Oh, here comes Blake saying, well, you're giving up 250 yards rushing on the ground in every SEC loss. Sure, we can talk about that, but it's the truth. Guys, the front 7 and Whit Weeks being the center of that, and what you're formally announcing in these SEC Media Days, what you're formally announcing is very simple. He is the face of your team defensively. He is the leader of your team defensively. Those 3 guys are going to be representing you in SEC Media Days, and I think that they picked the 3 best that could be going. Now, you ask yourself the question, well, Blake, SEC Media Days is next week. And there's going to be a lot of narratives pushed by people who do not cover this team and do not know potentially what you have. Because there are 3 massive storylines that going into Monday, when football really starts getting real here, no, it's not the EA Sports, when it gets real and realistic, the 3 storylines that are going to be surrounding LSU going into next Monday. Speaking of defense, it's going to be the front 7 and the edge rush. Guys, bringing in Patrick Payton, having Gabe Relaford, bringing in Jamari Butler and Jack Pyburn. I don't know if defensively that you have a better overall unit than edge. We have talked about that a lot. Patrick Payton in the last 2 seasons had 26 tackles for loss, 11 sacks. Jack Pyburn had a massive season last year with 60 tackles and 4 tackles for loss, and played on the line of scrimmage and off of the line of scrimmage at linebacker. Jamari Butler, 16 tackles for loss the last 2 seasons, 7.5 sacks, and along with the top 50 dude that you recruited out of the state of Louisiana, Gabe Rutherford. If anybody in the media that is going to SEC Media Days listens to this, there should not be a bigger storyline other than Garrett Nussmeier that should be coming out of SEC Media Days outside this edge position. You brought in a lot of talent. Guys, I could make the argument that the edge presence outside of Texas is arguably the best in the SEC. Easily can make that argument. What do you do with Harold Perkins? Is he going to be a part of that in some form or regards? Let's hope so. But guys, the edge presence with Gabe Rutherford, Patrick Payton, Pyburn, and Butler. Guys, there might not be a better unit overall on your team. Now, some of you did reach out to me and said that you played EA Sports this week, the new college football video game, College Football 26, and you're like, bro, Blake, Patrick Payton is a dog on this game. Yeah. The thing is that you do have Harold Perkins that you can send. You have Jamari Butler you can send. You have Patrick Payton. You have Gabe Rutherford. All of these dudes that LSU under Kevin Peoples and has stacked up. Guys, the biggest storyline for me going into the season defensively is this edge presence. And if you get 2/3 of what I think that they can be, you're cooking with grease. And I think that you're going to do something special. Number 2, wide receiver. Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson, Chris Hilton, and Barian Brown are the 4 big names that everyone coming into the season are looking at. And you could technically throw in Bauer Sharp and Tradez Green into the situation of 2 really good guys that you could put in the pass catchers. Guys, Barian Brown has seen more action than anybody in the SEC at wide receiver. He's had 122 catches and 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns. He has 7 other touchdowns that are not generated from receiving. Guys, what LSU can do at receiver has got to be, and I'm sure Garrett's going to be asked about his weapons, the speed that LSU has at wide receiver is the best in the country. Jelani Watkins, Chris Hilton, and Barian Brown, guys, I'll ask Carter this, who's actually here with us now, but I'll ask him this. It might be the most dangerous and most explosive unit in the SEC at wide receiver. How Garrett's not asked about his weapons a lot will be a very big part of this as well. Last but not least, and we're about to get to Carter here, but the biggest storyline for LSU going into Monday is Garrett Nussmeier. It's not remotely close. Garrett completed 64% of his passes last year on 525 attempts. He had 4,052 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, along with 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Guys, the bottom line and everything that we're going to talk about on Monday and everything that's going to be surrounding this team, Brian Kelly, these players, what is your anticipation going into the season? It all revolves around one dude, number 13. Maybe number 18. Who knows? I don't know who do y'all think is getting number 18. Nothing else matters other than the anticipation of what Garrett can do going into year 2 as a starter. Can his offensive line protect his ass? You can have all the weapons in the world, but if you can't protect number 13, none of that shit matters. None of it. I told you last week. I'll tell you again today. Some of the shit that Garrett has said in this offseason is maturity-based, growth-based. If you're growing mentally, you're growing physically. I don't care if you're being better mentally and growing in the position. Sky's the limit for what Garrett Nussmeier can do on the field. But those are the 3 things that I think that when we come in here on Monday and we're like, Blake, man, SSU Media Days was fire. Well, the 3 things that everybody wanted to talk about. Garrett Nussmeier, what they did at edge, and holy shit, we got a lot of speed at wide receiver and a lot of explosiveness. I do think that those are going to be the 3 things that we discuss the most. And quite honestly, that's the face of your team right now. All right. Carter Bryant is in the house. Let's get to him. Let me get to a quick break. He joins us next. Stay with us.
Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game.
Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotion. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority.
Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by.
We're back. Carter, the Power Bryant. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
An early Blake Ruffino, because I have to go live later tonight. I'm not sure if I'm going to have the energy from doing your show for me to do my show.
Well, you're blaming me, but I heard that you had a couple of lemony twangs last night at your mom's birthday.
We did have a wonderful birthday. Shout out KB, the big 6'5", but
let's go, Mama Bryant. Let's go.
Yeah, Mama Bryant. We threw it down. No, you want to know what's funny? So she is she's a huge fan of sweets, but she's also diabetic. So had to cut the tiniest sliver of cake. Her A1C and all that stuff was really good. So I had to take the cake away from her, and that's like,
oh no,
dude, the look on her face. It was so much fun to throw this party for her, and then to watch her sad face as the cake had to leave. And I gave it to.
I feel bad. We can't do that. I mean, we got to splurge.
Yeah, I know. But Blake, it is good to see you on this glorious Tuesday, man.
Tell Mama Bryant that she needs to go on carnivore for about 90 days, and then she can have a piece of cake.
Yes. I'm not carnivoring now, but I'm still mostly carnivoring now. So
just eat healthy, baby. That's all we need to do. Great life decisions. Carter, let's start off here. LSU announced the 3 players that they're sending to SEC Media Days: Garrett Nussmeier, Whit Weeks, and Chris Hilton. Carter, just reading the vibe and the tea leaves from the LSU fan base, I think people were really shocked to see Chris Hilton's name on that list. I got to tell you, dude, him getting the Freak of the Week last week when Jake Flynn announced it, you talk to anybody on that staff, Carter, I don't know if Chris Hilton, God willing, stays healthy. I mean, that's all that they can talk about. Some people told me that there was a race last week inside the indoor facility, and Chris Hilton beat everybody. So there's some anticipation that Chris Hilton is, because of the Freak of the Week, because of the work that he's putting in, because of the 5 a.m. workouts that he's still attending, Brian Kelly selecting him. Carter, how big of it? I know it's not anticipating the season of what he's going to have. I think it is a statement that Brian Kelly is sending people.
Yeah, and he's a part of a power couple. So
that's right.
With Big Foe. It's not really a shock to me, Blake. He was LSU's best receiver in the final few games. You can make an argument Aaron Anderson should go because he was overall more productive, but it's also a message.
Would want to go.
I'll also say this, Blake. it's also a message that Brian Kelly is rewarding the guys that committed and stayed at LSU. None of these three are transfers. One thing that drives me nuts is when you see these media days and a new transfer that came in just a few weeks ago is your team representative.
Yeah, you saw like Jackson Arnold for Auburn is going to SEC Media Days.
Exactly. And here's the thing about Jackson Arnold that you didn't bring up just now is that he sucks. But
damn,
he is
golly.
Yeah, he's not good. Now you could expect a year 3 leap, but he does suck. I don't know what's going on at Auburn. But I love Cam Coleman. I think Cam Coleman's the second best receiver in the SEC. With that said, I do, man. I freaking love me some Cam Coleman. Just get
Ryan Williams, and then he's 2.
Yeah, I would have Cam number 2. I would.
Okay.
I'm a little bit higher on him than most. So
okay, very interesting.
Who would you say is the? It's tough. It gets
tough. Here's the problem. I haven't like sat down and like gone through it. The problem with Cam Coleman that you could make would be just the simple nature that he has showed nothing on film. Not like some of these guys, right? Like I mean, I think that would be the biggest thing. I mean, I'd have to think about that for a minute. I don't know off the top of my head. I think Casey Concepcion at Texas A&M, it would be up there for me. I think, but that we'll see. You know who? Chris Hilton.
Yeah, let's go, Chris.
Yeah, Chris Hilton.
Another guy I'm a little higher on is Ryan Wingo with Arch. I think they
that's another one.
I like Wingo a lot, but the truth still remains.
You got Zachariah Branch that's also in the league now, along with Noah Thomas. So you got a lot of really good, talented receivers in the league.
Yeah, and here's the thing that's also interesting about Chris is that this is a year 5 guy. With Garrett, part of the first real recruiting class for Brian Kelly. So, well, no, not first real recruiting class, but you get what I'm saying. The first class of people that's been here for the full 4 years, basically.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see Chris get put on the stage. I've gotten to know Chris's parents, just seeing him at games and whatnot.
Awesome.
They're great people, and I'm for it. I am, but. Whit Weeks isn't a shock. I think he's the best defensive player on the team. And then obviously Garrett is Garrett. So really excited to see what they're going to say next week.
SEC Media Days is here. I guess what are your biggest storylines that people should be reading? I mean, obviously, I know we could talk about Garrett. That's the biggest storyline, Heisman Trophy candidate. Carter, for me, it's edge, receiver, and then quarterback. But if I'm going to take Garrett out of this because we just look, I mean, it's an easy talking point, and we talk about it so much.
Yeah, of course.
Edge, receiver, O-line probably should be the 3 biggest storylines going into SEC Media Days for LSU, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Obviously, there's going to be questions about who's going to line up where on the secondary. But, for me, Blake, I'm with you.
I feel like we know that. As crazy as that sounds. Oh, you don't think we know it?
I mean, I know Mansour Delane will start, and I know AJ Halsey's probably.
Ashton Stamps and Jakeem Jackson will rotate along with DJ Pickett, and whoever the 3 out of the 3 is best there will go to the other. I think.
I was more so talking about the starters. Who you think the first one? But yeah, I think I'm with you.
I think it's going to be Ashton Stamps and Mansour Delane and Deshaun Spears and AJ Halsey. And when they need a nickel, Cooley's coming in.
So you think Spears?
Yes.
Jumps Gilbert?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
I heard that Deshaun Spears, people were secretly kind of like giddy over his offseason.
As they should be, because as a true freshman, he did have some flashes, and he's a top 100 recruit.
Rangy,
yeah,
very rangy.
And you go back to his high school testing; it's all really good stuff. But for me, Blake, I'm for it. I would prefer Spears over Gilbert, but obviously Gilbert, in his defense, his best game last year was USC. So, he's been in the fire in some big games. So, we'll see how that plays out. And then obviously, Blake, to me, the big thing from SEC Media Days is more so like macro stuff. What is Greg Sankey going to say about the playoff alignment? We saw Brett Yormick talk about the 5-11 versus 4 whatever, and then
the 4-4-2-2-1.
Yeah, and then the thing that I think will be grilled the most from the national media, or at the very least it should be, and I would really like every single head coach to be asked this question. Do you prefer a 9-game conference schedule or an 8-game conference schedule, just so we can have on the record how everyone feels about it? And obviously Brian Kelly, nobody's even close to being the biggest proponent of a 9-game schedule than Brian Kelly, who has repeatedly said this, him and Scott Woodward, for 3 years now. So we know where they stand on the issue. I would be interested to see what everyone else says. And then the last thing, Blake, is the media poll. Now, I understand that not many people think the media poll means anything, right?
Yeah,
I know the Big
12 got 17 first-place votes last year.
Right. Was it 17 or was it 17 or was it 3? I thought it was like 3.
Oh, I thought it was 17.
No. It's not,
because 109 people voted last year.
Oh, I thought it was way more than. I'd have to go back and
okay, go back and look at it. I remember like 109 or 110 people voted, and like there was 17 votes. Maybe it was like Vandy and somebody else, and it was 17.
Right, but I do think, and I do value consensus. Right, so you have all these different media organizations and people from these 16 SEC schools that are in SEC Media Days. And all their opinions together gives us a good consensus ranking of how they feel going into next season. So I'm always interested with that poll to see how they feel about LSU going into next year.
Pat Smith reported that new metrics are expected to be utilized for the upcoming college football playoff. Multiple sources have told Pat Smith that refined metrics involving strength of schedule are expected to be presented next month. So it is interesting to see what Greg Sankey says on that. I do anticipate that he's going to go 5-11 model. Pat Smith also says now we'll see if that moves the needle for the SEC 9-game conference schedule. Carter, here's the problem with that. The SEC still had the strongest strength of schedule a season ago with 8 games. Why would they move? I don't think that they'll move, nor again, we've had this debate before, nor do I think that they should.
Right.
The average strength of schedule for the Big Ten is not the same as the SEC. Again, we're trying to create the real complaint here is like guys like, did you see Matt? I don't know if you saw Matt Rule's comments from Nebraska, but he came out there saying like, oh, well, we played 9 conference games. Buddy, I would trade my LSU schedule right now for your Rudy Poo-ass schedule. It is weak as shit.
Well, let's do this. In the chat right now, type 9 for 9, type 8 for 8. Not your opinion. I'm talking to all your AYS viewers.
Yeah, fine. They can give it.
Yeah. Not your opinion of it should be 9 or 8, but what should be the case? What do you think is just?
I don't think the SEC should budge at all. 1 year for me, it does not dictate, should not dictate what's happened in the last 2 decades. Carter, let me throw this your way. I did a massive deep dive on this, okay? Massive. Like, took me 2 weeks to do it.
Okay.
Hypothetically speaking, you and I and some others had issues with some of the teams that got in the playoff a season ago, anticipating that this goes to 16 teams. Carter, in 2023, Missouri would have gotten in over LSU, even though LSU holds a win over them. Okay. The problem was that Missouri played Southwest Missouri State in week 1, and LSU played the ACC champion in Florida State. Why should LSU be dinged and Missouri not? So there's a difference. There will always be differences inside their own leagues, but there'll also be differences of what Missouri will do that you cannot change, right? For an example, you're not going to be able to change Missouri from playing a weak ass out of conference, regardless of how many games that is. You can't change it, nor can you force them to, unless you go to a Big Ten challenge, and they have to do it. Regardless of that, okay, regardless of any of that, think about this for just a moment. Louisville would have been in the playoffs. Louisville, the Cardinals, would have been in the playoffs in 2023. In the last game that they played in the regular season, they got beat by Kentucky. I don't think that the SEC, for what it's worth, in the conference that our favorite team is in, needs to start making drastic changes until this starts playing out a little bit more. I think because of the playoff is moving and expanding, okay, why would you do that? The Big Ten wants – there's no – right now, I'm not saying ever. I will concede this. I'm not saying ever. If there is a metric where they do the 4-4-2-2-1 plus 3 model, fine. Go to 9 because it doesn't matter, right? You have 4 automatic spots. It doesn't matter. But the SEC isn't wanting to go to that. Neither is the Big 12 or the ACC. If you're doing the 5+11 model, or if you do that model and there's 16 teams and there's 11 at-large bids, there's no reason for you to go to 8 games, and there's certainly no reason for you to do some of the things that you want to do. There's no way, because again, Louisville gets in. There's no way that you can justify some of these actions of what Louisville faces versus what the SEC faces. It is not. And Carter, I don't care that Louisville gets to play North Carolina and LSU's got to play Bama. Like, it doesn't change anything for me. They lost to Kentucky. The on-field results have to happen. Now, Carter, in 2024, here's a hot take, and I know we play him in week 1. I don't think Clemson deserved to be in the playoffs.
Okay.
They lost to South Carolina. So what? One team had one more loss than they did. So what does that matter? Your record does not indicate who you are. It doesn't.
Right. I'm
for
with
example,
you. Yeah.
For example,
I'm letting you finish. Go ahead.
For example, the teams that had the same record in the Big Ten and the SEC last year was Rutgers and Florida. Who's the better team?
Right, but that's a slippery slope.
It's not a slippery slope when one of them faced 3 playoff teams. 3. They face off 3 of the SEC opponents. So you get to a point where if I'm Florida and my natural rival is Georgia and I got to play Florida State out of conference and I got all these different teams that I got to play in my schedule and out of the schedule, why would I do that? It makes no sense for half the league. None.
Yeah, okay. No, it doesn't, but it also doesn't make sense for every other league to play 9 conference games if that's the case. If your barometer is, well, we need to do what's best for the SEC. Well, the Big Ten and all these other school or conferences that play 9, they would say, look, it's best for us to go to 8.
Go do it.
Yes. Then you have a really watered down college football product because you lose those extra games, which for the Big Ten, that's 10 better games that you lose.
I disagree with that. The Big Ten and the SEC came up with an agreement to face off in the Classic every week 1 moving forward.
Yes. And wouldn't it be better if you had an extra SEC game?
No.
Yes, it neutrally.
Carter.
No,
Carter.
neutrally. So neutrally, as a neutral observer, would you prefer that?
Sure, but we're not neutral observers. If you go to the 4-4-2-2-1 model, I agree with you. Yes, give me the other game. The problem is is that in the realistic world of all of this, we can play neutral and hypotheticals all day long. Yeah. It's not about the Carter, you faced off against 7 ranked opponents last year. 7. Like, I 7 of the 12 games that you played, more than half are against ranked opponents. You're getting that every year. By the way, you do the Big Ten Challenge, you're doing it. Some of you are doing 8. No, I cannot get past. Everybody wants better product. Brother, guess what you're doing with an expanded playoff? You're getting when you expand, the better product goes to more towards the end of the season instead of Ohio State losing to Michigan being the death knell to them.
Yeah, and it should be the
I agree with you. It should, but when you expand and when you continue to expand, it's where you're at.
Yeah, and that's more the point for there to be better games. And the thing that you miss, Blake, is if you only play 8 conference games per year, you are avoiding so many more difficult matchups that some teams are able to avoid altogether. For instance, all 3 of the SEC teams that made the college football playoff last year, none of them have to play LSU. None of them, right? If you go to a 9-game conference schedule,
LSU loses to all of them probably. Maybe not Tennessee.
Right. But that's the thing. You don't know if LSU is not going to beat at least one of them, right? One extra conference game evens things out. Like, it wasn't even like Tennessee had a worse strength of schedule than most teams in the Big Ten last year.
Not Indiana, not SMU, not Clemson.
Well, it depends what strength of schedule metric you want to use.
Carter, everybody's under the same strength of schedule metric.
No, but
everybody.
I'm not saying the official strength of schedule metric, but
that's why is that all that matters? That's all that matters, that the SEC had a higher strength of schedule, even Tennessee.
I'm talking about Sports Reference, right? That has years upon years upon years of data. They say the Tennessee schedule was around a Big Ten, bottom half Big Ten schedule.
Carter, and we know that that's dog shit.
I don't
because
know that.
Indiana, no, we do. Because Indiana's schedule exists. Carter, yes, we do. Go look at Indiana's schedule. Yes, we do. They face off, Carter, they face off against 3 teams that were above 500. 3. And you're trying to come in here and convince, you're trying to come in here and convince me that they had a tougher strength of schedule than Tennessee. It does not exist. SMU faced off against 2 teams in the regular season that went above 500. 2. They lost to one of them.
I'm with you on SMU. I'm with you, and I'm with you on Indiana's schedule being weak, but you're acting like all the SEC schedules are equal. They're not.
They're not.
With an extra conference game, it gives you more schedule equity amongst the other teams in the conference. It is unfair.
You're never gonna have equality. It's not possible.
Yes, I understand that. Wholeheartedly.
Fighting for equality in sports, in fighting for schedules, when you had a team that was 107th in strength of schedule, makes 0 sense for anybody in the SEC. 0.
But tell me this. Could Indiana have done something about Michigan having their worst season in the past 5 years?
Could Tennessee have had a issue with one of the Alabama not having Nick Saban?
You're making my point. Because
Tennessee's schedule would have been massively different if they beat Alabama with Nick Saban at the helm, which they, by the way, they did 3 years ago.
But so my overall, and we can move on to a different subject. My overall point is it's not the fact that Tennessee made the playoff, or it's not the fact that their schedule was less or more difficult than Indiana's. It's that Tennessee's schedule was way easier than that of LSU's schedule. Tennessee's schedule was way easier than that of Ole Miss's schedule.
And guess what? And next year, the schedule flips, and you play all the teams that you didn't play.
Right. But that's next year. I'm talking about a year-to-year thing where if you have an extra conference schedule, or an extra conference game, more teams are going to play one another, right? I understand the argument.
Carter, you can't do that, buddy. You cannot do that. You can't take the outlier of Tennessee because I can run right back at you and say,
so let's do another. Let's do another.
Okay,
outlier.
let's do Georgia now.
Georgia had an absolutely brutal schedule, and I
add another ranked opponent to the 10 that they played in the regular season.
Okay, and then what about Texas?
Add another one. They faced off against Georgia twice.
Yes, and they did not play South Carolina.
No, they didn't.
Did they
but
play?
They played Vanderbilt, who beat Bama, and Rutgers didn't go into Ohio State and beat their ass.
I know,
sorry, there was nothing Texas can do that DJ Lagway got hurt and they played a walk-on. We can play the what-if games all we want.
And then did Texas play Ole Miss last year?
No, they didn't. But again, none of that is remotely close to being equal to Indiana only facing off against 3 teams with a record above 500. And by the way, that's the metric that we're carrying right now. The metric is not about the SEC trying to battle against the SEC. The metric is SEC going up against the Big Ten.
All right.
The metric is never and has never been in reference to the 9 ever has never been in reference to this, in reference to the SEC trying to go what's equal in the SEC. You got to look beyond that because literally there's only so much that you can do unless you go to an all SEC schedule. And then you still are missing teams.
Yeah,
you're still missing 4 teams. You got to get to a place though, Carter. By the way, Indiana lost 2 of those games. 2. And we all came out here. Majority of people came out here and said, hey, they're 10-2.
And who did they lose to? They lost to Ohio State.
They lost to Ohio State. They lost to
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Who was this?
And that's it.
Did they not have 3 losses?
No, they only lost to Ohio State.
Okay. So 1 team above 500. No, 3 teams above 500. They beat Michigan and they lose to Ohio State in the regular season. They play Notre Dame in the playoff and they lose. Yeah, so 2 of the 3 teams that are above 500, they're getting their asses whooped in. It's not the same as Tennessee going up against 9-3 Bama. I'm sorry, it's not. There's not. Yeah. There was.
What would you say was Tennessee's second best win last year?
Florida, probably, considering the fact of what Florida did down the stretch.
Yes, and then when they played Florida, what was the final score of that game?
I think they went in overtime and they won.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then in all the other games that Tennessee played last year, how do you think they performed?
Carter, guess what? I can do that same shit. Hold on. I can do that same shit with Texas, who beat Vandy by 3.
And that more proves my point. Is that
proves the point of what? That I get to go up against Florida or Rutgers.
No. Equal. Because, Blake, if you win close games every week, like both of those teams, well, more so Tennessee than Texas, like they did last year, games that were 1 possession going into the 4th quarter, right? Those games oftentimes are coin flips, right? You add 1 extra conference game, that game probably will not go in your favor, right? So for Tennessee and Texas to avoid playing some of the better SEC teams, where Ole Miss and South Carolina and Alabama and LSU had far more difficult schedules than those 2 teams, I do think Texas was better than all those teams, but Tennessee I would consider to be at their level, if not worse than all those teams. I just think going to a 9-game conference schedule, you don't have these schedule inequities like you had last year. And you'll see it again this year, where if 66% of the teams that make it to the next step, which is a college football playoff, have inferior schedules to the other teams in the conference, you need to do whatever it takes to try and make it more equal. And a 9-game conference schedule would do that while at the same time making the product better for the viewer. I don't want to see Alabama beat down on Norfolk State. And that would take one of those games off the radar. That is good for everyone.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. I would agree with you if Nebraska. Let's pull up Nebraska's schedule. Hold on.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
Nebraska football schedule. Let me ask you this. Would you rather face off against Cincinnati, Akron, Houston Christian, Michigan, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, USC, UCLA, Penn State, Iowa, or go look in what Texas has or Tennessee has and tell me that you wouldn't rather do this schedule versus theirs?
So we're talking about last year's schedule.
No, that's this year's schedule.
Okay.
For Nebraska. Carter, they still have Florida. They still have Alabama.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that.
Again, it's you're fighting for equality inside the SEC. And what everybody that wants to go to 9-game conference schedule has got to realize, it's not an SEC fight. It's not. You're going to miss teams out in the playoff like you did a year ago if you go to 9 conference games. It's the bottom line in expansion. Sorry, I know that you want better product. You will miss on more. Carter, again, I cannot.
That's an undisputable fact. That theoretically, I'm with you.
Okay, then you're telling these teams like Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina a year ago, who, by the way, South Carolina beats Clemson, to add another game. You can say that that's fair for Tennessee. You can say that it's fair for Texas. Where it beats the shit out of everybody else is what if LSU gets Georgia at the end of the year? What if South Carolina? No, it's not. Because South Carolina, no, it is not. South Carolina does not go through the same things that the teams in the Big 12 do, because they only have 3 teams that are worth the flying shit in the Big 10. Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. That's it. That's it.
So you don't think Michigan?
No, Carter, they couldn't. Carter, they were dead. They were 130th in the country in passing last year, and everybody blamed the quarterback. They didn't throw the ball.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about moving forward.
Sure, but they got to go better than 8-5. I mean, you
got to put some respect on Illinois' name. You don't think Illinois is a good football team last year?
I would take, in a regular season game right now, without South Carolina having a 4th-string running back at slot receiver, I'm taking South Carolina. Both of their starting safeties that got drafted in the first 2 rounds of last year's NFL draft, they played a half. Rockets,
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, but
everybody's like, "Oh, Illinois was better than South Carolina." No, the fuck they weren't. I'm sorry, they weren't. They had a 4th-string running back at wide receiver.
Yeah, but
please spare me.
It counts for something, though. It
doesn't count shit for me when you have all those guys opting out at halftime.
Yeah, but it's not like Sellers wasn't out there. You know,
sure.
It's not like Dylan Stewart.
Two of the top 3 safeties did not dress in the second half.
Right. But
that's like saying in the bowl game against Wisconsin a couple years ago, well, you know what? Wisconsin beats LSU, but we would come in here and say, well, Malik Neighbors didn't play. Jaden Daniels didn't play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. But my major point, I didn't know where we were going to go.
I didn't either, but you look what you did.
I didn't do anything. I love lively debates. I love getting into heated arguments and all that stuff.
Yeah, but here's the good thing. You and I can still be friends after a heated debate. Most people can't.
So this is what I'll share with you, Blake. Some inside baseball, because you're
sure.
You're very well connected, but I'm no Ross Dellinger or anyone like that. What I think will happen is the SEC will get some extra moolah to go to 9, right? And if that were to happen, I believe the SEC would want the 4-4, 2-2-2, whatever model. And they would do the play-ins.
So stupid.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
So stupid.
And what's really weird about it is the play-in idea was
That's a whole nother stupid idea.
right. So the 3-6-4-5 play-in idea was actually brought up on my channel 2 years ago by a USC writer named Matt Zimick. He was like, "Hey, you should do this," but his wasn't a 3-6-4-5 kind of model. But if you do that, ESPN and the SEC makes so much more money, like a ridiculous amount of more money, and that's what it's ultimately going to come down to. And basically,
and here's the thing: in that model, this is what you would have had. Okay, just throwing this out there to you. You would have had South Carolina, Alabama. You would have had Ole Miss. You would have had LSU. That would have been along with Texas and Georgia. Okay, playing for the SEC championship game. That would have been your model. Now do the ACC and now do the Big Ten.
If they did play-ins,
they have to, because there's no way that you agree to you doing play-ins and them not having them. There's no way that happens. Now do the Big Ten.
Well,
bullshit. No, stop.
That's not what I was going to say. That's not what I was.
Now do the Big Ten. Now we're getting to a place where shit's not equal.
Well, I would need to see the Big Ten teams in that.
Oh, actually, it wouldn't have been LSU. It would have been Tennessee. But regardless of that, now do the Big Ten. Listen to me. Go back in 2023, go back in 2022, go back in 2021, go back in 2019. I took COVID out. Go back and look at the 16 teams that would have been in the playoff. I'm telling you, the SEC should not, for their own sanity, go to 9 games, and they should not go to the automatic qualifier. It will be the death of them. It will be the death.
Oh, I think death. That's
it will be the death, because in
what do you mean by death? As in they will get eradicated off the planet?
No, but what would happen is that teams like Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Alabama, who go up against 7 out of 12 ranked opponents. Carter, let's look at Nebraska for just an example. They face one. Yeah, they face one ranked opponent going into the season.
Who next year they play
yes,
2.
One.
2.
Michigan. I'll give you Michigan. 2. Again, you got to start creating shit equally.
And that's what I'm doing, but just inside the own SEC. And here's the thing.
But you can't. But you can't. And if you get 4 automatic qualifiers in the Big Ten, which is what you did a season ago, damn near, with Indiana, it's a death knell to you. Carter, I guarantee you this on God's green earth.
I don't think it's a debt. I don't think it's a.
Ole Miss destroys Indiana. They destroy him. I don't give a shit what anybody tells me. Indiana went up against 2 teams that had a winning record that they lost to. Carter, they got abused up front. They got their asses torn the fuck up. And you get into a situation where I'm supposed to tell Ole Miss, hey, you know what? Indiana's got to play Dookie Water State, and you got to go up against Bama. Good luck.
Right. So Ole Miss would also be, if we know what we know now, would have been a 7-point favorite over Tennessee as well.
There you go.
In your own conference.
There you go. In your own conference. But I'm willing, because Tennessee has got to next year turn around and have an absolutely brutal schedule along with Texas, I'm willing to say, hey, it was their luck of the draw this season. But you know what it wasn't? For Texas, do you think that they would have wanted to face off against Georgia twice? No.
Yeah, but the second is a SEC championship game. It's different, right?
You can't do it.
That's and look, it's most everyone agrees with you, Blake, that it should stay at 8. And I will also say the SEC would be smart to stay at 8 if your goal is to get as many teams into the
Isn't
college
that the
football
goal?
playoff. It's not my personal reason why I watch college football. No, it's not my goal.
Carter, we
it's
cover
great.
LSU, and we got to watch out what's for the best interest of LSU. And I'm just going to tell you, come next season, you got Texas and Georgia on your schedule.
Right.
Texas and Georgia and Clemson at home.
Yeah.
Brother, there's not a tougher schedule than that. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. My thing though is, you say that. Would you say that to Scott Woodward and Brian Kelly to their faces?
Yes.
Okay.
Without wholeheartedly. I've called line up the meeting. Because
I'll
I don't
happily
think that
attend.
Scott and BK are right on this at all. I think they're desperately wrong. Desperately wrong.
It's bold.
Carter, how about this? You haven't made a playoff since Joe Burrow's been here. Maybe you should listen to other opinions.
Now, look, I will say 1,000% that it is better for you to make the playoff in an 8-game conference schedule. Every even simple mathematical argument all the way to an analytical mathematical argument to an actual football argument would say that, right?
Right.
But
that's all I care about.
For me, and this is my most controversial opinion, and I get yelled at Twitter about it. I don't have as many Twitter followers as you, but I don't give a shit about the playoff. I just don't. Like, do I care for LSU to make the playoff and win national championships? Sure, but I only care about that for LSU. Now, when Tennessee made the playoff, I made a lot of money because I covered Tennessee and they blew my stuff up. But I care about what makes college football great, which is its regular season. And I am more interested into what makes the college football regular season better. And what would make the college football regular season better is if I had one extra game for us to enjoy on college campuses. And by going from an 8 to a 9-game conference schedule, you allow how college football was originally played, which is mostly decided on a week-to-week basis. You allow that schedule to have more equity in who the actual best teams are. And that is my main goal, is making the college football regular season the absolute best it can be. I will concede I will concede every single argument imaginable that an 8-game conference schedule makes it easier for you to go to a college football playoff, and that the playoff makes more money and all that stuff. I just don't give a shit. I just don't. One undeniable fact, though, is that a 9-game conference schedule would make the overall viewing product better, especially for the better schools. You would get more marquee matchups. Who it really hurts is Arkansas and Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Those schools really hurt if they go to a 9-game conference schedule. Not really so much.
It hurts everybody. Carter, it hurts everybody.
Yeah. And guess what? Man the fuck up and get past it. That's
okay.
And look,
hold on. Being a man is not going into a lion pit, okay, scared of the lion. Going into this situation is the Big Ten going in there with a Rottweiler and you got a full male lion. It's a difference. Sorry. Nebraska's schedule is fucking weak. That goes around the entire Big Ten. Carter, go back and look this up. Ohio State didn't face a top 50. Hold on. Ohio State didn't face a top 50 offense for 7 straight weeks. 7.
Yeah. It's not their fault, though, that Washington
and it's not the SEC's fault that they got a fuckload of good teams either.
Yeah, but would you consider Tennessee an elite team?
No. But Carter, this is elite.
Okay. So
being a good team is making a playoff. Being an elite team is what this man did behind us.
Yeah, okay. So I will also say this. I think you are devaluing a little how bad the Big Ten was at its bottom. And I think next year, the bottom half of that conference will be better than what it was this year.
Carter, go back until 2019. No, they're not. No, they are not. Carter, we have previewed almost all of the Big Ten teams. No, they are not.
So you don't think Michigan State second year under Jonathan Smith, they're going to be a little bit better? You don't think
they might be a little bit better.
Right.
Sure.
And you don't think Purdue
lost 13 dudes to the transfer portal on defense.
Right. I'll concede that, but I like Jonathan Smith as a coach, and I think they'll be better.
Just because we like him doesn't mean that he's going to be better. Yes. I mean, Carter, I'm sorry. There's no other way around this. And by the way, we're only talking about the Big Ten. We've only talked about the Big Ten in this argument. We have massively and grossly left out the ACC and the Big 12. Even if you conceded the Big Ten and said, okay, you're on equal playing field. You're not, but you're on equal playing field. Now explain to me the ACC, and now explain to me the Big 12.
Right. And how many ACC teams would be getting in the 5-11 model?
The 5-11, you don't know. But I do know the 5+7 model, and they got 2 teams in that did not deserve it at all because Clemson, the ACC champion, literally got beat by 3 SEC teams, embarrassed by 3 SEC teams.
Yeah.
Carter, they played a third of an SEC schedule and got their shit kicked in.
So what would be your perfect college football plan?
My perfect college football would be just like you do in college baseball. You have an RPI level system, work out the kinks, and you're an at-large bid. Now, they do if you win your conference tournament, but it's different there. It's different.
Well, yeah, there's 1,000 more teams. Yeah.
Right. I think that there's some things that got to be changed. I would do, if you win your conference, that you get in. Okay? I do kind of agree with that. But at my core, I want the best 16 teams in. I don't want the ACC, Big Ten, SEC for that matter, when they're in a down year, if a team does not deserve to be in there, SMU, Boise State, Arizona State. Carter, Arizona State lost 2 games last year. How can you justify, well, Blake, they played close against Texas? I don't give a flying shit. They had a bye week.
Slot, though. It's one slot.
Carter, that one slot. Carter,
one slot.
Carter, that one slot. Hold on. That one slot holds out LSU in 2023 with Jaden Daniels. Go look it up. You were the 13th ranked team. It holds you out. There's no way you can justify leaving that level of team out versus a team that got their asses fucking beat on the field by a team that finished 4-8. Sorry, it does not exist.
And does that rush defense stop Cam Scatterboo and Sam Levitt?
Yes. You know how? You know how? Because Jaden Daniels scores 70 on them sons of bitches.
And LSU would be rightfully favored, but I wouldn't say a gazillion % that
LSU and Jaden Daniels in 2023 would make Cam Scatterboo piss himself this time instead of throwing up on the sidelines.
No, I'm with you. I think LSU would win, but
they would wax that fucking ass. Jaden would wax that ass. Yes, they would. They would wax that ass, and you know it.
They would not. They wouldn't. I wouldn't say you
Carter. We literally justified Texas not having a bye game over Arizona State.
Cam Scatterboo.
Cam Scatterboo. Scatterboo, Scattahoo. We whipping that ass.
I don't think whip is
Jaden Daniels would have 5 touchdowns before half.
No, I'm with you on that. It's just they would have death by 1,000 cuts us. Cam Scatterboo 7 yards. You know good and well we would not have
Major Burns would have whipped their ass.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, look. In a 16-team format or a 12-team format, I'm fine with giving less than 10% of the field one conference slot that justifies the existence of that entire conference.
I don't get. Then you know what you do? This is what you do. You call 1-800-CALL-A-HO and you tell SMU to pick up the phone, call LSU, and schedule a preseason game and get notoriety and beat them sons of bitches.
Blake, it's one slot to justify
Mississippi
the
State
of an
Carter.
entire conference.
Carter,
One
Mississippi.
slot. One
Carter.
U.S. slot.
Carter.
One slot.
Hold
One
on.
U.S. slot.
Can I checkmate it?
Give the
Can I
Big 12
checkmate
one
it?
slot
Let me checkmate it.
in a game
former Pac-12
where it took a 4th and 13 to beat Arizona State.
Carter.
One slot.
Carter.
You got to give them one slot. Give them
Carter.
one slot.
Stop with the equality and listen to me. Arizona would have been in the playoff a couple of seasons ago. They lost to Mississippi State.
Arizona.
Yeah, the Wildcats and Jeff Fish, they would have made a playoff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
They lost to Mississippi State.
Yes. And guess what?
No.
Okay.
Jaden Daniels put his nuts all over that Bulldog face, and Malik Neighbors came alive.
But
cannot.
That's one game, Blake.
I don't give a shit.
So,
Literally, Mississippi State beats the shit out of Arizona, and then LSU sits on the outside looking in because of equality. Screw the equality. It's only one slot. It's only one slot for everybody.
So look, the funny thing about that is if that were the case, and let's just say Arizona State does not get into the field, all right? Who would you put in? Who would you put in? Would you put Alabama in there?
I would rather, as much as actually, my whole take last year would have been I thought South Carolina at the end of the season, in the regular season, or Ole Miss were the better teams. Just because they lost to Alabama does not mean that's who they are right now. You cannot justify to me. It's unjustifiable that we're just allowing one little slot for the group of 5 team. Boise State was cheap water.
One U.S. slot. One U.S. slot. One slot. One slot.
Okay. And you know what? You keep talking about equality in SEC schedules. What
but
about
it's even equality? We're talking less than 10% of the field. Less than 10% of the field.
Carter, it's more than 10% of the field, by the way. It's more than 10% of the field, by the way. 1 out of 16 is not 1% of the field or 10% of the field. It's not. 10 out of 100 would have been 10% out of the field. It's not that. You're getting to a place where, Carter.
Yes, it is, Blake.
You're not, because it's not just one. Hold on.
Less than 10%.
Carter, for the love of God.
16, I know I have a journalism degree, but
Carter, it's 3 Carter. It's 3 teams, 3 conferences that you got to do that for. So it's not one out of 16. It's 3 out of 16. Because if you're giving one slots to all of them, it's 3 separate teams that you got to do that for. Meanwhile, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss sit on the outside.
Boo-hoo.
No.
Ole Miss lost to fucking Kentucky. I don't.
They lost to fucking Toledo. They lost to Mississippi State. Mississippi State.
Yes.
Mississippi State. And we're talking about Kentucky.
But that Mississippi State team that Arizona lost to wasn't as bad
and guess what?
as the Mississippi State team.
And you know what? There's something that Ole Miss has got that they don't. They fucking beat Georgia.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Give them a
What's Arizona State's best win? What's Arizona State's best win?
From last year?
Yeah, what's their best win?
So if we're judging everything based on best wins, then Kentucky should get in over Arizona State.
No, Carter. LSU, when they won a national title, lost to a 6-6 Florida team. Spare me on, they slipped up one time. Who gives a shit about that? You know good and goddamn well that there's no way that you can justify the situation at hand with Ole Miss and Arizona State. Don't come in here and tell me that you can.
No, Blake, there's not. Ole Miss, I think, would have given Ohio State their best game in the playoff. I think Ole Miss was a phenomenal team.
BYU was Arizona State's best
I think they were the best SEC team. I think on a neutral field that they versus Arizona State would be favored by 8 or more points. But here's the fun thing about it, Blake, is you sign up to play in the best conference. You get more money to play in this best conference. All right. If everything was about the playoff, Ole Miss should leave the SEC and go join the Big 12.
Guess what? Well, then guess what? Well, then guess what? When those other little itsy bitsy schools who can't do shit go up against SEC teams, don't lose to a 3-10 or 3-2 or 2-10, 3-9 Mississippi State team. Sorry.
That Mississippi State team was not.
I don't give a flying shit.
And by the way, that game
Monkeys
was lost. That game
and
was
witches
lost
out in the West.
on the road in overtime, where
Carter.
Tenatoria McMillan's foot barely went out of bounds. If
I don't care.
It was a close loss, and you're over here,
Carter. Wins and losses to you must not matter.
What?
Wins and losses must not matter then.
No.
Because if you're doing that, you're allowing Clemson to
Your argument is the exact opposite of that. Your whole argument.
It literally isn't. It's literally looking at a team like Clemson who got their shit kicked in by 3 SEC teams, and you want to justify to me it's only one slot. It's not only one slot. It's never only going to be one slot. And you got South Carolina. How you tell me this? How does a 10-3 Clemson team and only got to 10 wins because of a ACC championship game? Clemson and South Carolina were 9-3 at the end of the year. Clemson lost to South Carolina, and you're saying it's only one slot. The problem that you have here is giving that team one slot when that South Carolina team is on the outside looking in, and we played the game on the field.
Yes, and you're talking about one random end-of-season rivalry game. I'm not saying that it doesn't count.
Ole Miss's loss to Kentucky is one random game inside the conference. You can't do that.
And that's the brilliance of it. Is
God bless it.
If Ole Miss wanted to make the playoff, not only look, they could have lost to Kentucky. Don't choke versus LSU.
I thought we were coming in here to talk about SEC Media Days. And by the way, they didn't choke against LSU. They beat LSU. Because they beat LSU, let's not go there. Let's not go there. They beat LSU. Garrett Nussmeier did not get blindsided. He didn't. And by the way, they lost.
I was talking about Ole Miss, but okay.
All
right. But LSU had more. Would you concede that LSU had more points than South Carolina?
Yeah, they did have more points. They shouldn't have. Okay. LSU got a massively lucky break.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes. LSU was a very lucky team when it comes to post-game win expectancy.
We should have been 7-5. We should have been 7-5.
No, I'm with you. Per post-game win expectancy, sure. Yes, absolutely.
I thought we were going to come in here and have a great old time about SEC Media Days.
No, but that's part of it. That's the discussion. Look, I make a good chunk of money on the SEC channel every year during football season.
There it is. That's the reason you want 9 games. There it is.
Look, it would make everybody's life a lot better.
No, it's all about Carter's life. See, found
No, it is not. No, it is not.
There it is. All right.
Dude,
Your Honor, are you ready to side on the case? Yes, I am. Carter's only about the money.
I'm only that's me. That's it. Look, here's what I would say. All right, and this would be my final thing about this whole ordeal is that it's going to get taken to a gazillion miles out of context. I do care about the playoff. I do, but that's not what made me fall in love with college football. It's the regular season. It always will be the regular season. The regular season, if you were to go by actually exciting and competitive games, you get so many more of those, in particular compared to these playoff blowouts that we get every year. I will agree that Ole Miss, I think out of all those teams that were in that SEC bundle right there, I think they should have gotten in over South Carolina and Alabama. But the beauty of it is Kentucky last year, with only one conference game, was relevant in the grand scheme of things. They won in that epic upset over Ole Miss, thanks to Barian Brown, future LSU first-round pick. Well, I'm not that high on Barian Brown, but I think he's going to be pretty good. So,
Damn, you're not that high on him?
not first-round pick, but I think he's going to be really good.
By the way, quickly, yes, no. Have you played EA Sports College Football 25, 26?
I actually did not purchase it because I'm working on a new YouTube project, and then all my time is going to that. It's not even sports related. I can't believe it. So I've said until I make that channel bigger than Logan Paul's, because sports, you can build a big sports following, but you got to branch out. And I went and I tested every single chicken nugget. I did. It's a tease.
Who's got the best chicken nugget?
You will never believe this.
Wendy's.
No.
I already guessed it.
No, it is not.
It's
it is
Wendy's.
not. Well, I don't want to spoil it because the video is so good. I've worked on it.
All right. How about this? Don't tell me what was the biggest surprise in your chicken nugget quest.
The best fast food chicken nugget. I'm not going to say the best.
Don't tell me.
The most, I will tell you, the most surprising per expectation was Taco Bell's chicken nuggets.
Everybody said that. My wife said that the other day too.
Dude, look, Corey's been rocking with me for years. All right. Corey said it at the same damn time. How about
that? Okay.
Corey has supported me since PHL had like 20 subscribers. and
How about that?
I think true story, I think I blocked Corey once, and then he had to watch on, and I never blocked people. I don't know what it was. And then he had to start watching on his girlfriend's channel. That's how much Corey has supported me. But Corey and I, we have good wavelength then.
If you got Spider-Man 69 is the new whatever that guy's name used to be.
Yes. Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So they discontinued him, so they only have tenders. So I went and I tried the Taco Bell tenders. Not nearly as good as the nuggets. Swear to God.
How about that? Okay.
Dude, you would think that adding size, but it's
I got to be honest. There's only one meal that I get from Taco Bell.
Oh, let me guess. I already know what you are.
What is
you're a Crunchwrap Supreme guy.
What
is it?
I get 2 chicken or steak quesadillas with a side of quesadilla sauce on the side.
Wait, you get you animal? A side?
Yeah, I'm a dirty fucking dog.
Yeah, do you
I don't
check.
I never go to Taco. Well, since I've lost all the weight, I haven't. Dude, can I tell you what I had? Can I tell you what I had the other day that fucking slapped? I had a croissant from Burger King when we were in Omaha. Ham, egg, and cheese croissant, bruh. Talk about slapping. And I don't like ham. You talk about slapping, son.
I love it.
Because I've lost 120 now. I haven't eaten fast food, but I'm telling you, I don't go to Taco Bell.
Okay, but let me ask you this: who has the best before I get out? Because I just looked. I didn't know we were on here for this long. I have a show in 20 minutes.
Okay, let's
go. Your favorite chicken sandwich is from where?
Oh.
And by the way, while you answer, I did unblock Corey. I've never gone back to unblock somebody. I've blocked like 5 people in my chat historically. And you've got to do really bad stuff for me to go out of my way to block your ass. I think I did unblock Corey, but I remember his girlfriend would show up in the chat, and I'd be like, "Who?"
That is really funny. I gotta go Popeyes.
Yeah, dude,
I gotta go Popeyes.
The craze was worth it. Dude.
I never liked the regular. I like the spicy.
Yeah,
I like my chicken sandwich like I like my women, Latina, spicy.
I'm trying. I'm not offended by that. It's just
There's nothing better than a nice Latina woman.
Well, I hope is Megan. I don't know.
Well, there's a reason I'm saying it. No, but no, she's not.
I didn't know Megan had distant.
Latina.
I didn't know that, Megan. Let's go. All
right.
Dang. So that means she can. That means she can cook. She's elite cook.
Oh, my wife is an elite cook.
And then the 2 times I come to visit you, I to Tina's Pizza and.
In fairness with the pizza.
Well, actually, it's to Tina's Pizza both times.
Hold on. In fairness to the pizza the first time. Okay. In fairness. Well, the second time it was because the kids were eating it. The first time we were going through a whole house remodel.
Yeah. And
yes. Okay. All right. I'm going to watch your show. Thank you, buddy. Hey, by the way, to anybody who thinks I don't love you, you know that I love you.
Oh, you hate my guts. You know, and you have my house address. You
have my house address. I've never been to your house. You've been to my house twice.
Oh, you don't want to come to my house. Okay. It's nothing but trailers over here, man. All right, buddy. And there's nothing wrong with trailers. Nothing wrong with that. All right.
See you, buddy. Peace. All right. We've been here a long time too. We'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Y'all have a good one. Peace.